Apples, with over 50% of the U.S. production coming out of Washington state. Many property owners also produce apples in their own properties. At the end of each summer comes a good harvest, followed up by a process that many love to do in the fall, called cider squeezing. The process of squeezing the juices out of the apple and turned into cider. First, the apples gotta get picked out of their trees. Whether it's using your hands on the ground level or getting on a ladder to reach even further apples, or even using a rake, or at the very worst, you'd shake up the whole tree. What we call the cider squeeze is a personal event held at my friend's parents'. Friends are invited from all over to come and help out. The ultimate goal is to get as many gallons of cider made as possible. The end reward is to have some of your own cider to bring home with you. But hanging out with friends during the whole process is almost a reward all on its own. While we marvel and gaze at this perfect apple here, the first step in creating cider is to wash off the apples. It's very simple. Just get them in a little bath of water and get the general dirt off. Not that much is required to get them cleaned up. The next step is to transfer the apples into a holding container that can be pulled out of when they get chopped up. The next step is pretty simple, dropping apples into a little machine that minces them up to squeeze the little chunks out later. Some apples aren't quite perfect and require having parts of them cut off, or they might actually be too big to fit into the machine. Another thing to always be sure to have is to have some cinnamon whiskey on you. Adding cinnamon whiskey to freshly squeezed cider makes it 10 times better. Some of these grinding machines might not have enough torque as you're feeding apples. As a result, it might get jammed up, and then you're going to have to clean out the mess. The churned up apples will eventually drop into a hopper here, which will then get squeezed later by a press. This container is now filled up with mashed up apples. As you can see, the juice from the apple is just dripping out. And we haven't even brought down the press yet. This is my favorite part, getting that press down and squeezing that as much as you possibly can. Whatever container you choose to use to have the apple juice fall into, be sure to have something to catch the bits of apple that will be falling down. And as a result, what's left is pretty much a slightly dehydrated minced apple, which can be discarded. And well, the final step is transferring that cider into a container. It's not really rocket science, I mean, you just transfer it. Although it is a good option to maybe have a form of filter to further filter out particulates.
New version for
Thanks for watching, and remember, If you'd like to keep up to date on the latest adventures I go on, be sure to click subscribe.
For Justice League.